Welcome into the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. The Miami Dolphins have done it again. They have beaten the Rams. The Miami Dolphins look completely dead, Jason Leisure, down 10-0 in the fourth quarter. And Ryan Tannehill and Devontae Parker lead the Dolphins back to victory, their fifth straight victory. Jay, what jumps out to you?
Well, Joe, you talk about a day when so much is going against the Dolphins. They're here. They got the terrible weather. As you can see, we're still getting poured on here in the Coliseum. They're missing two offensive line starters going in. They're two most expensive guys, the guys that they have sunk the most investment into it. Then they lose Laremy Tunsil right before halftime, and they still somehow pull it out. And what I really want to talk about right now is that final drive by Ryan Tannehill, or really, the final two drives. They had back-to-back touchdown drives to end it. When you look at their drive chart, punt, 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 punt until the end, and interceptions in there as well. The final touchdown, they're down 14-10. They're at their own 25 down here. What happened?
Well, Ryan Tannehill finds Devontae Parker, and it is obvious, and speaking of Ryan Tannehill and Devontae Parker after the game, that Ryan Tannehill finally has the confidence in Devontae Parker that he's been looking for all year. Ryan, again, in a clutch situation, it's something he did last week. It's something he did here when the game was on the line. They mixed in Jay Ajayi. I did not listen to head coach Adam Gase's news conference because I was listening to some players, but I know that he was frustrated with himself, with his own play calling. Yeah. It is pouring here in California.
More so where I'm standing than where you're standing. You picked a great spot.
Well, try to move over a little bit. Trying to keep you dry.
I got to keep us centered, man. This is a professional production.
I hear you. I don't know how the Dolphins have won 5 games in a row, but Ryan Tannehill was terrible. And the biggest reason that he was terrible for the first 3.5 quarters of the game is that he was getting drilled. He was getting hammered. The Dolphins' offensive line was not holding up. Steen, Urbic, Bushrod, James, Sam Young, when he came into the game, I mean, this is not the offensive line that Dolphin fans signed up for. Right. And yet they sort of pulled it together at the end of the game.
And mostly Tannehill, I thought, really pulled it together. Devontae Parker. It was poetic justice that Devontae Parker was in there on defense as a safety at the end and knocked away the final Hail Mary from Jared Goff. Mac Atha is writing in with a question. And guys, please send your questions, send your comments. We'll try to read those and answer those as much as we can. They're asking Joe about Laremy Tunsil's. Mac asked specifically about Laremy Tunsil's injury. We don't know. We know he's got a shoulder injury.
Adam Gase did not expand upon.
Yeah, you mentioned that you weren't there for Adam Gase and you didn't know what he said. Here's what he said. What he said is, for anything of that nature, worry about it tomorrow. Adam Gase was so hyped about the ending to this game that when you asked him about that, when you asked him about their offensive line kind of being in shambles, when you asked him about the difficulty they had getting the run game going, all of that, he said, I'll think about that some other time. He was just so ecstatic.
Somebody says Albert and Tunsil will be back next Sunday. Now, Brandon Albert
he says he hopes that. Jason Ferguson writes in that he hopes that.
Well, Albert did address reporters after the game, saying that he would not rule out playing in next week's game. I was told that he is expected to miss 2 or 3 games.
I would still expect that.
So this is game 1 of 2 or 3. Mike Pouncey did not address reporters after the game. He was here, as was tight end Jordan Cameron. Remember, USC, UCLA was yesterday. Obviously Dolphins, so he wanted to be here. I'm glad he was here. He's probably not going to play a game for the Miami Dolphins again. We're not sure if he'll play a game. But Pouncey did not address any reports, including my report, that the Dolphins don't believe that his injury is season-ending, that he might miss 2 or 3 more games.
Mike Pouncey's been very prickly with the media this year. Mike didn't really want to talk during the time he was injured. He has not talked recently at all.
I think the injury really...
I think the first time I heard him talk after a game was him complaining that the media had been picking against the Dolphins during their 1-4 start. He's been a little sensitive lately. When you talked about Brandon Albert saying that he wouldn't rule out being back next week, I would imagine that he is. Brandon Albert is very competitive, and he sees something like this from the sideline and wants to be part of it. That's not a medical opinion from Brandon Albert.
It's the same thing with Mike Pouncey. I mean, Mike Pouncey, if the doctors and the coaches and the trainers say, hey, go ahead, give it a go with that hip, he's the guy that's going to try to go and play. But they, in the same way they did the first time around when he missed 4 games with a similar injury, they're going to hold him back. Do not expect to see him against the 49ers, probably not against the Ravens, maybe against the Cardinals, more likely maybe against the Jets, if I have that order in my head the right way. What else jumps out to you? Well, the defense was outstanding, wasn't it, Jay?
It really was, man. I mean, the defense, and they should be against a rookie quarterback making his first start in Jared Goff. They, as bad as the Dolphins' offense looked, the Rams were equally bad. They got a couple of breaks, but the Rams were 2 for 13 on third downs. The Dolphins did a great job getting off the field, and a lot of the offensive players credited that defense for keeping them in it, giving them a chance to win it at the end.
Cam Wake had a sack or half sack with Cam Sue. One of the other. Spencer Pasinger played pretty well.
Yeah.
Kiko Lonzo had a forced fumble and fumble recovery.
On the same play.
Byron Maxwell got absolutely screwed on a pass interference that should not have been called. Maxwell had a nice game. He had a couple of nice pass breakups. Tony Lippett had one awful play where he missed tackling Tavon Austin twice. But look, in general, credit to Vance Joseph and the Miami Dolphins defensive players. They have improved overall.
And they have improved, Joe, without Schad Jones, without Xavier Howard, without Jelani Jenkins, without Koa Misi.
That's a great point.
And some of the guys that are out there are playing through injuries as well.
That's a great point.
Let me run a theory by you from today's game. To me, you look at a defense that played exceptionally well. You look at Ryan Tannehill coming up with some gutsy, heroic drives at the end. That tells me that this is how hard it's going to be for them to keep winning with that offensive line and with the just accumulation of stress from those injuries on defense, that it's going to take something like this. They're not going to roll through anybody at this point.
There's a fine line between winning and losing in the NFL. This is a league of great parity, P-A-R-I-T-Y, sometimes P-A-R-O-D-Y. See what I did there?
I did.
I'm smarter than I look. Smarter than your average third grader. But I agree with your theory, and I look forward to reading about it in the Palm Beach Post tomorrow, because I know that's where you're headed. It's not going to be easy, and the difference, I think, between some past Dolphins teams and this one is that when things go terribly wrong, when Brandon Albert is hurt, and Laramie Tunsil replaces him, and Laramie Tunsil gets hurt, and Mike Pouncey can't play, and Jordan Cameron's career might be over, and Koa Misi is out for the year, and Rashad Jones is hurt for the year. When all those things happen, they have a head coach in Adam Gase that they believe in. And as a team, they believe that the game is not over until it's over. They gave great effort, no more indicative than on that touchdown run, which brought the Dolphins
amazing.
within 10
Did you guys see that play, the Jarvis Landry touchdown?
Jawan James is mad at me, so he didn't talk to me about it, but I'll tell you about that
Everybody's
tomorrow.
mad at you, man.
People get over these things. So Jawan James, who I love very much, he's a great guy.
Love.
He pushed. Who did he push into the end zone?
He plowed Landry the last 5
Jarvis
yards
Landry,
right down here in this end zone.
Who had cramps, by the way. He should be okay. But Jawan James, with the help of
5 yards, man.
Damian
15
Williams,
feet.
Jermon Bushrod. You remember the Bush push?
One of the tight ends. I think Sims was in there too.
I don't know if it was here, but there was a famous play called the Bush push where Matt
Oh,
Leinart
yeah,
against
Reggie
Notre
Bush,
Dame
yes.
pushed former Dolphin Reggie Bush into the end zone. And anyway, that's what I was reminded of. But this wasn't just a couple of yards. This was 5 yards. I know you're going to include this probably in what you're writing about. Did you hear anything interesting about that play?
Yes. The most interesting thing about it, several guys talked about that, but the most interesting part of it to me, and I think you'll like this, Landry had his eyes closed the whole time.
Oh, wow.
He said, I just close my eyes and let them push me where they're going to push me. And I'm telling you, it was 15 feet down here at this end of the field.
Tremendous effort. Even Ryan Tannehill got involved at the end trying to push guys in. And that's the thing about this team. I don't care if the Dolphins don't make the playoffs. Some things went well and not well for the Dolphins' playoff chances today. And I still think, 7-9 wins is where they're going to land. But this team will be remembered for the great effort that it has given and the fact that head coach Adam Gase has changed the culture.
There's so much belief. That stands out to me. And there hasn't always been that with the Dolphins.
I saw a very giddy Dolphins owner, Stephen Ross, after the game. He was very happy about his quarterback, his coach, the direction of the franchise. And you can't blame him. 5 wins in a row. Last time Dolphins won 5 in a row?
08, I want to say.
Tony Sperano.
Is that right? 08?
Was the coach. The Dolphins made the playoffs that year. Nick Saban had 6 in a row. They didn't make the playoffs. I know everyone's... I understand. Tomorrow we're going to come out with a story. There's an 18% chance the Dolphins make the playoffs.
It's got to be higher than that.
I don't know. 22%. Depends. There's a lot of different guys out there with their computer formulas and everything. But...
we'll get you calculating all that too. We'll have the Schad ranking.
I'm already calling that story.
Hey,
I'll write that for you guys tomorrow.
You guys know we love doing this. We could do this for an hour, but we don't have time today. We're on West Coast deadlines.
Biggest turnout yet, absolutely.
Can you hit the?
The guy said 7-9. He makes a good point.
I know that
They're
you're
6-4.
I know
7-9 would be a disaster.
I know.
All right, I've given up on 7-9.
And you're working against
me.
me.
The guy makes a good point. The Dolphins are going to finish 7-9. 8 or 9 wins is still realistic.
We don't have a choice about this. We have to go. So if you can
wrap us up.
Well, hit the playoff chances going forward. They got the 49ers next week, and then take us out from there.
The Dolphins have a chance to go from 1-4 to 7-4, which is absolutely remarkable. It's a great story. Ryan Tannehill said it's been quite a ride, and you can read that quote and more in our story on PalmBeachPostSports.com. If you live near a newsstand or get it at your house, you can actually still buy the physical newspaper.
Go to the gas station and buy it.
Yeah, you can get it in wherever Boca or wherever you happen to live, West Palm Beach. Pick it up and send me a picture to prove that you actually bought my story. I would like to see that. Here's the deal. Last thing I say: if you buy the Palm Beach Post tomorrow, take a photo of it and send it to me on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or whatever. I will put it out there.
Text
Anybody
it to him. I'll
who
give you guys
does
his number.
I will put an image of you and the Palm Beach Post on some social media tomorrow.
That's like a proof of life. It's like what they do with hostages. They have them hold up today's newspaper.
You're my hostage. But listen, the Dolphins win again, 5 in a row. We're headed home. It's been a long trip, but a successful trip for the Palm Beach Post and the Miami Dolphins. Thanks once again for tuning in for our broadcast in the rain.